So what do you do when you're sick? You go to a doctor, get some medicine and get cured. Well, in Dota 2 there is a doctor who can completely destroy you. What's up guys? Welcome to Gamepointz, and this is a guide to playing support Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor is a ranged intelligence hero who is played usually as a position 5 or in the support role. He seems quite popular these days in the pro scene, and Secret Puffy has been playing him quite a lot, I've seen, and probably I'll come to that later on. Witch Doctor has 4 active abilities. Let's go through them one by one. Witch Doctor's first spell is called Paralyzing Cask, and essentially what he does is he launches a cask of paralyzing powder and it starts bouncing around enemy units, and while this cask bounces it damages heroes for 50 and it also stuns them for 1 second, and at its maximum level it can bounce 8 times. The cast range for this spell is about 700 units and the bounce range is 575 units. Witch Doctor's second spell is his only spell that kind of resembles him to a doctor, and this spell is called Voodoo Restoration. So when Voodoo Restoration is activated, he focuses his magical energy to heal nearby allied units, and it costs him mana every second this Voodoo Restoration is active. And the heal radius for this is about 500 units, and the base heal per second is 40 at its maximum level, and the mana cost per second is 20 at its maximum level. Another important aspect of this Voodoo Restoration is that it does not cancel channeled abilities when toggled on or off. Maledict is actually my favorite spell of Witch Doctor, and what happens is when you cast Maledict, you place a small curse on the ground in a very small area, and any enemy heroes that are caught in this curse, they start taking damage over time, and also they start taking bursts of damage every 4 seconds based on how much health they've lost since the curse was casted. At its highest level you take 28 damage per second and also 40% lost health as burst damage, so which means this is very effective against all these tanky offlaners you see now. Also the cast radius is very small, it's about 180 units, so you gotta be very careful as to how you place the curse so that it lands on an enemy hero. Death Ward for Witch Doctor's ultimate is probably his signature spell. What it does is Witch Doctor starts summoning a Death Ward for 8 seconds, and it does 185 damage at its highest level in a 700 AoE. And when I say AoE, it doesn't necessarily mean that it damages everyone. How it works is that the Death Ward will automatically choose to attack an enemy hero within the attack range using the normal auto attack rules. It is also however possible to manually give the ward an attack target by just right clicking on an enemy hero who is in range. Giving a right click command while having Witch Doctor and the ward selected does not cancel the channeling effect. Also, it only works on heroes and also clones and illusions. Another interesting aspect of the Death Ward is that Blade Mail does not work on it, which means if you pop Blade Mail while being attacked by the ward, Witch Doctor does not get any damage. Also, the Death Ward damage cannot be blocked by any means of damage block. The Aghanim Scepter upgrade for Death Ward is absolutely amazing. The Death Ward attacks will have True Strike, and also the attacks will start bouncing between nearby enemies, and it's gonna do so much damage because of that. Okay, so let's talk about item builds for Witch Doctor. The thing is, Witch Doctor does not have this cookie cutter item build that we sometimes get for support heroes. Instead, you need to figure out what you are going to need, and in this match, as starting items, I thought of going for 2 sets of tangos, 2 iron branches, a healing salve and a couple of wards. You can play a little aggressive as Witch Doctor early game because you deal quite a decent amount of damage because your base damage is quite high. So because of that I thought, I'll get more regen, and the 2 branches of course I can turn them into a magic wand later on. So later on I convert my brown boots into tranquil boots, and also you can see that now I have a raindrop with me. In addition to the tranquil boots, I sometimes do like to go for another windlace that just allows me to reach fights faster because there is no mechanism for me to kind of jump in. You can also opt to go for arcane boots, which later you can disassemble and make an ether lens so that it increases the range of all your spells. Witch Doctor is essentially a very squishy support. You've got very bad starting armor and usually you tend to be the target of the enemy heroes. Because of that, you can actually opt to go for 1 or even 2 braces if you feel that you are being targeted a lot. And early wind layers, early raindrops, early magic wand will also help you quite a lot to stay alive in fights and make sure that you cast all your spells. A Glimmer Cape is one of the best items you can get on Witch Doctor. This will allow you to hide in the shadows and cast your death ward without being detected, especially when there are heroes like Pudge or Mirana who can just hook you or arrow you and cancel the channeling death ward. So because of that, you can just use the Glimmer Cape while you are channeling the death ward and it will still not get cancelled and you can stay invisible and deal damage. The Urn of Shadows, which you can later upgrade into a spirit vessel, works wonders with Witch Doctor's Maledict and you can dish out an amazing amount of damage with this item. This actually works so well because of the way which spirit vessel does damage. It does damage based on the current health pool of a particular enemy hero, and Maledict does damage over time based on the amount of health lost. So as you can see, this item and this spell works quite well together. So if there is no other urn carrier in your team, I think Urn of Shadows into Spirit Vessel is a great item for Witch Doctor. Okay, so let's talk about the laning phase of Witch Doctor. As a Witch Doctor, you can afford to play a little aggressively because of the fact that you do decent early game damage. Also, you have this potential of disrupting fights through the use of your paralyzing cask. Especially if 2 enemy heroes are ganking and if you get a great paralyzing cask, those 2 enemy heroes are gonna get stunned for almost 4 to 5 seconds because the cask will keep bouncing between them. And Witch Doctor, once he reaches level 2, is very good at making plays. In this game, I opt to max the first skill and the third skill, which is the paralyzing cask and the maledict, instead of going for the Voodoo Restoration, because I felt that we have a spirit breaker who is going to be charging constantly and a maxed out maledict is gonna help us secure so many kills. It is also a good idea to max the maledict over Voodoo Restoration if you have a hero like this Juggernaut in your lane who can Blade Fury and do a significant amount of magic damage to tank your offlaners. So usually the best thing to do is, if you are really good with Witch Doctor, you start the fight not with the paralyzing cask but with the maledict. You try and position yourself and you cast the maledict on the enemy hero and then you cast the paralyzing cask and just keep on hitting him, and hopefully by the end of the chase the enemy hero would be dead because of all that damage over time. If your team has an active position 4 hero, then Witch Doctor can also help that hero gank. Especially he's really good at smoke ganking, maybe at level 3 with level 2 in Maledict and with level 1 cask. He should be able to net a kill if your mid and your position 4 roams actively and plays sensibly, and of course rack up those urn charges if you already have one. It's also a good idea to always keep an eye on the mid lane or any other lanes which need assistance, because you have this potential of disrupting fights, as I said earlier, with your paralyzing cask and maledict, and you can actually turn the tide because of the fact that your skills are on such a low cooldown and even your ultimate is on a relatively low cooldown. You should always turn up to fights and make sure that you help your team get kills and win fights. The other important thing as a Witch Doctor that you need to decide is whether you are going to max your Voodoo Restoration over Maledict. Especially if the enemy team has a gank heavy lineup, it's always a good idea to max the Voodoo Restoration and Paralyzing Cask over Maledict, or maybe just 1 point in Maledict. Generally, as a Witch Doctor, you need to show up to almost all the fights. You need to use cover, you need to use the protection of smoke, of invisibility runes, of glimmer capes, of tree lines, and dart in and out of those fights. Use your cask, use your maledict on the heroes which your allies are going on, so that the damage is amplified through that maledict. And once you get a good paralyzing cask, you can use the Maledict and let the Death Ward do its damage. If I have good initiation, I usually tend to cast the Maledict first, followed up by the Paralyzing Cask and then the Death Ward. But you need to be mindful of long range disables like a Fissure, a Hook or a Mirana Arrow, which could actually disable your channeling. So be very creative, be very calculated as to how you're going to place that Death Ward. Some amazing combos with the Witch Doctor Ultimate is you can use the Death Ward while your allied Faceless Void Chronos, and you can just place the Death Ward right outside the Chronosphere and you can cause a lot of damage. You can use the Mass Ultimate to your advantage so that you can get a really nice Death Ward going. You can use Pit of Malice. Basically any other setup disable will allow you to get a great Death Ward and do a lot of damage. But always do not forget to use Maledict on the enemy before using Death Ward, as that will maximize the damage caused exponentially. Alright, so let's talk about the talent tree choices I've made for Witch Doctor. So usually when I play support Witch Doctor, I go for the +5 armor talent at level 10 almost always, because Witch Doctor struggles a lot with armor. He has really bad starting armor. The +60 damage, well, it could be good if you are like snowballing and ending the game in like probably 19-20 minutes, but I would usually go for the +5 armor at level 10. At level 15 it's a choice between the +80 Maledict AoE and the +2 Cask Bouncers. I usually go for the +2 Cask Bouncers if my team does not have enough lockdown, but if my team does have enough lockdown, I would recommend going for the +80 Maledict AoE. It's gonna help you get more heroes into that Maledict. And at level 20 my preference is the +100 Death Ward attack range. However, you can also go for the +1 Maledict tick if you find that there are quite a few tanky heroes which you can take down with the Maledict tick, and if there are other heroes which could make use of this Maledict tick, like for example a Necrophos whose Heartstopper aura would probably benefit from the Maledict tick and you might actually get a kill. And at level 25 I would usually pick the +60 Death Ward damage. However, you can go for the +1.2% max health Voodoo Restoration if you think that your team needs this. If your team does have like a tanky core who can make use of this additional health regeneration. All in all, when it comes to Witch Doctor, you need to make sure that you stay alive so that you cast your spells, you disrupt the team fight as much as you can, and cast Maledict on the targets your allies are going on, so that the damage instances that they makes the damage done by the Maledict even greater. Alright everyone, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and there are several other support guide videos which I've already made. You guys can go down to the description and check them out. Also guys, if you did enjoy this video, please do not forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button so that you get notified of more awesome content like this. Anyways guys, until we meet again, it's GG, well played.